Good morning, and welcome to those of you joining us virtually and those of you present here at All Souls Unitarian Church of Indianapolis. I am Crystal Francis. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the worship associate for today's service. Together with Sarah Cannon, Director of Children's and Community Programming, pronouns she, her, and Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, our senior minister and Argentinian supporter, pronouns she and Asia. We are your worship team on the chancel today. If you're visiting with us this morning, we are glad you are here with us despite the cold. While nursery care is available, people of all ages are welcome in this service, especially you, Virginia. She can't hear me. Especially you, Virginia. We invite you and welcome everyone present to please complete a connection card. This card helps us to know how best to stay connected with you and support you on life's journey. We welcome you and invite you to bring your whole self with you this morning as you join us in worship. If you'd like some extra support for this life's journey, our caring team is an extension of the ministry team and is here to support you. You can reach them by calling All Souls and leaving a message, or by email, pastoralcare@allsoulsindy.org. Our Soul Matters theme this month is wonder. Check in the know to get the packet so you can engage with materials at home or at All Souls in person and online. Reverend Katie?
Thank you so much, Crystal. So a big thing is happening right now, in addition to our worship service. I just had a share moment there. Thank you. So Argentina is in the World Cup, which is happening right now. They have not won a World Cup in over 30 years. So this is a big deal. We are at medium risk for COVID, so we are asking that everyone please mask in the sanctuary. We are having a youth drop-in tonight from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. 6 to 8. So 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the makerspace. Please see Sarah Cannon if you have any questions. A couple of hot tips about what's happening next weekend. On Christmas Eve, we will be right here and also online at 6 p.m. It will be a multi-gen service, so come and be ready to carol and have fun and hear a solid Christmas message. And then on Sunday, December 25th, we are inviting everyone to dress comfortably, to bring maybe a pillow or a blanket, because we are going to have a slightly shorter service that is a meditative service that I will be leading. And that'll happen in person and online at 10:30 on Sunday, so a week from today. In this moment on our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored. Wherever you are on this life's path, whether you're here for the first time or the thousandth, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your World Cup team alliance, ability, gender, beliefs, political affiliation, or documentation status, you are welcome here, and you are truly never alone. Let us now greet our neighbors, especially our new and returning members. We honor the great mystery of the universe, the source of all, which deems everything sacred by its power to unite us, and gives us the radiance that we bring forth together as many among us prepare to kindle the Hanukkah lights in our homes. We celebrate the spirit of life, wellspring of all that we perceive and imagine, as we look upon with reverence the wondrous great fortune which has been bestowed upon our ancestors throughout antiquity. We cherish the wonder of each thing, the order of the universe that binds us together with all of nature, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season.
Of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out the community of love and justice we aim to be. Please rise in body or spirit as Savvy lights our chalice, and we say these adapted chalice lighting words from James Philip Blake, the same words we have spoken since 1903. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant.
Only using this one.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sustained us with your commandments and commanded us to kindle the lights of Hanukkah. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who made miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to this season. Baruch atoi Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, shekeyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman azeh. Are we lit? We're lighting the first candle on the left, hopefully. Got it? Okay.
Good morning. So, as you have probably guessed by now, today is the very first day of Hanukkah. Woo-woo, indeed. I happen to know that some of our children are already pretty well informed about this subject. So if you have questions that my story doesn't answer, you should definitely ask some of the folks up on the quilts because they can tell you a thing or two. But hear me out. I do what I can. Long ago, a king named Antiochus IV tried to force Jewish people in his kingdom to worship Greek gods instead. Now, as a UU, you might already know that trying to force people to believe a certain way does not usually work. For example, everyone here either is a kid or used to be a kid, am I right? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so has a grown-up ever tried to force you to say sorry? Give me a sign if this has happened to you. I think it has happened to most of us. Now, were they able to successfully make you be sorry? Right, exactly. So what goes on in your soul is your business. Queen Elizabeth I said something kind of like that, and it might be my favorite thing she ever said. One of our spiritual ancestors, Sebastian Castellio, said so too. He said, I must be saved or lost by my own personal faith and not by that of another. So trying to force people not to be Jewish was never going to succeed. But Antiochus sure tried. His soldiers even installed an altar to Zeus in a Jewish temple. They sacrificed pigs there, which was especially offensive because Jewish and Muslim people believed it was wrong to even eat pork. One man who refused to give up Judaism was named Mattathias. He and his 5 sons started a rebellion, hiding in the woods and attacking King Antiochus' soldiers. Mattathias' son, and this is where I think some of you guys might recognize some of these names, Judas Maccabee, became their leader. And over time, all the rebels became known as Maccabees. Kind of like how all Taylor Swift fans are known as Swifties, even though like their last name is not Swift. But this was much more serious. When the Maccabees defeated Antiochus' armies, you can imagine what the Jewish people's hearts wanted, which just was to reclaim their sacred temple, the heart of their community, to clean it and put it back like it had been and bless it and try to heal some of the hurt that had been done. I wonder if you can imagine if someone had taken all souls from us and done harmful things in this space, things that went against our principles, our rainbow promises. I wonder if you can feel what it would be like to come back and to find our chalice smashed or our covenant torn from the wall. I wonder how you would feel as you picked up the pieces, as you ran your hand over the wood of the pews, as you found where they'd stuffed the quilts and brought them back where they belonged, as you taped pages back into the hymnals and maybe even mended the special covers that so many of you kids love so much that were sent to us by our sister church in Transylvania. So one of the first things the people did was clean the temple and put it back as it had been. But the sacred lamp in the middle of the temple was supposed to be lit. And unlike our UU chalice, it was supposed to stay lit all the time. And they didn't have enough of the sacred oil that they needed to keep the lamp burning. And it would take them 8 days to make more. So they weren't sure what to do. But still, lighting that lamp was a really important ritual. So they used the oil they had, and they figured they'd keep it burning as long as they could. And to their amazement, the lamp burned for the entire 8 days until the new oil was ready. Now, as a Unitarian Universalist, you might say a few different things about that, depending who you are. You might say that it was a miracle, a special gift from the Jewish people's higher power. You might say that there was a scientific explanation, and maybe the Maccabees didn't yet have the learning to understand how it worked. Or you might say that they were very, very lucky. But no matter why you think it happened, I think you can understand how they felt. So I want us all to take just a moment and take a deep breath and close our eyes and really experience that feeling of miracle. Ready? Deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more time. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. That feeling right there, That is the lesson of Hanukkah. No matter what our UU theology is, we all need to know that feeling to understand how precious this space is, because it's our community's home. To understand how very lucky we are to be able to be here together. Thank you.
Rise and body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 221 in our gray hymnals. Thank you. As we center ourselves in this moment on the joys and the sorrows of this community, I invite you to not let your light go out. The days are long, they're often gray, and the nights still longer. Seasonal depression is real. We still wrestle with this changing, post-COVID, still present COVID world. Life is just not easy for many of us. Don't let your light go out. And I ask that you open your hearts to hold some of the joys and sorrows of others in this community, perhaps keeping a light on for them. Let us bring into this space, into our hearts, Margie Heckley, who lost her older sister, Patty, who was 84 to congestive heart failure this week. We hold in our hearts Nancy Renner-Clear, who continues to be at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for tests to determine the cause of her current illness. We hold in our hearts Julica Herman de la Fuente, our multicultural ministry coach, who has COVID right now. We hold in our hearts Jane Alexander, who is recovering from surgery, and Faith Long, who could use some extra energy right now. And let us also hold in our hearts the family of Mary Branson and all of those here who loved her. Mary passed peacefully this week at the age of 97 in West Lafayette. All 4 of Mary's daughters grew up here at All Souls, and All Souls was an important part of Mary's life. Her contributions to All Souls were numerous, and I want to thank Sandy Ryberg for some important details of Mary's life that she shared, including Mary served as the director of religious education. Mary's an artist, and I believe some of her work is even out in the hall. She was one of the few women to serve as president of the congregation. And she and her husband, Bob Branson, were members for the 62 years of their marriage. And Mary was a member for over 70 years. So let us hold the grieving in our hearts. Don't let your light go out, even as you grieve. There have been 5 shootings in Indianapolis in the last 24 hours. May we hold all who have been affected by these shootings in our hearts. And I invite you to grow your heart still more as we hold the family and all those grieving the loss of dancer and personality Twitch, who was just 40 years old when he ended his life. Twitch was a light for so many. Please don't let your light go out. And if it feels like it's dimming, lean on someone. Lean on me, pastoral care team, someone in this religious community, a friend, a therapist, or call 988. Don't let your light go out. Our theology teaches us that each of us is essential. There are gifts and talents and abilities that we have that the world needs desperately, and they can only come through us into this world. Please don't let your light go out. I invite you now into a moment of silence with me as we expand our hearts, fan the flames of our inner lights, and hold all who are grieving. And I invite you at this time, if you are grieving the loss of a loved one or acknowledging the anniversary of the loss of a loved one, please also rise in body or spirit so that we may hold you in our collective light as one community here and online. May the light and warmth of community restore all hearts. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you so much, choir. Thank you, and welcome back, Amanda Thomas. That was beautiful. The longest night, the shortest day, a time of deep renewal.
We are a dancing planet. The North Pole tilts away from the sun, stands still, a sacred pause, just a moment, and then begins to tilt back again towards warmth, towards our home star. Oh, radiant beings.
Let's link our hearts and shine today. Let's turn the world with our love. Let's put our intention toward change, toward the great turning. A new world is being born. In darkness, the seed takes root, and the new sprout pushes toward the light.
Out of the longest night, a new day is born. The deepest darkness births the light. Allow the returning light to feed you your visions of peace and justice in this world. The shock of the cold, wild wind on skin, stark branches reach into gray-blue sky.
We are a dancing planet. The longest night, the shortest day, a time of deep renewal. Today, we acknowledge Hanukkah, and we also begin to prepare ourselves for the pagan and Wiccan fire festival of Yule. Yule is an important turning of the pagan wheel of the year. It is one of 8 festivals, 4 that are considered fire festivals. Those are the equinoxes and the solstice. And then there are cross quarters, which are the festivals that happen, the major festivals that happen in between. I came to Unitarian Universalism as a pagan and a Wiccan, and I attended a CUPS chapter that met in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, actually a fellowship. So I was, I have to admit, really cautious at first with the idea of returning to something that even felt like a church. And I sort of felt like, maybe some of you who remember before there was a light that automatically turned on in the copy room where you'd have to kind of go in there and cautiously feel around for the switch, and you didn't know how safe it was going to be and if you'd bump into something and fall over. I think that's what I felt like the first few times that I went to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fredericksburg to meet with the CUPS chapter. And then there was this wonderful humanist group across the hall called the Heathens. And they made me feel so welcome that I just haven't looked back since. Now, for pagans and for Wiccans, for those of us that have earth-centered beliefs, we have different ideas about what the winter solstice or Yule can be. For some, it is the birth of the Sun King who is honored. For others, this is a time where we know that Hecate, the crone, her time is waning, it's coming to an end, and as we move towards February 2nd, the maiden is preparing to rise and hold her season. Pagan and Wiccan theologies are not monolithic. In fact, they are the antithesis of monolithic. They're quite diverse. And for me, as a UU pagan, I raised my children on a Yule story that was shared with me. And negotiators that they are, both of my children, as they were growing up, identified as Unitarian Universalist humanists, yet they negotiated not only for Yule, but Christmas as well. Do not underestimate our Unitarian Universalist children. But every year on Yule, we would tell the same story. We shut off all the lights in my house, and we rest together in the dark, usually around the dining room table with a candle that none of us can actually see in the dark resting on the table. And we tell this story. We talk about what it must have been like for our ancestors, when it was cold and it was bleak and the days were long and food stores were likely running low, and the family and many of the farm animals, in order for their survival, had to come indoors. Now, if anyone's ever been without electricity for a while, you've been in a big storm, you know what happens. Everybody sort of bands together, and all of a sudden, there's games that are played. And you can tell family stories, and maybe we weren't listening to each other before when there was wisdom to be shared within the generations, but these times when we are brought together alongside with the bickering that often comes, there's a sharing of stories, and there's also a mourning, because with the cold, it also meant that there was sickness and often death. And as we would tell this story, we would also talk about the person who would bravely go outdoors on the morning after the longest night and begin to gather all of the loved ones outside to sing with the return of the sun. And at this part of the story, we light our candle. And we rotate. It's very egalitarian. We rotate who lights the candle every year. But with that flame, everyone's face illuminates. And we welcome the sun back and then open some presents. As I tell this story, you might be remembering the time of COVID, which was a different kind of barren, cold nature, where our stores suddenly were empty, where we were driven indoors, maybe afraid, where generations came together that maybe hadn't lived together in a long time. You know, both of my boys, one was still in high school, but my older son, who'd been living independently for years, suddenly had to move home because he lost all of his jobs on one single day when everything shut down. And we became a multi-generational household again, once again gathering around the table, jelly fingerprints on the walls, stories being told. Who is in your home, your community? Who is invited back indoors? And I wonder about that when I think about our ancestors who often had extended families. And even for me growing up, you know, it was very normal for multiple generations to live in one household. And this world we live in hasn't been like that. This culture, US culture, hasn't been like that in a really long time. And yet we're seeing families begin to come together. But who else would be invited indoors into your home during a time of struggle? Who might you open the door for? Who might we open the door for as a religious community? Whose stories might we open our hearts to when it's cold outside and we need to warm ourselves with conversation and community? I've been thinking a lot about what the meaning of Yule is now, in the way that life is happening, in the face of the climate crisis, which isn't going away, it's only going to get worse. What does it mean to hold the Yule story, the promise of hope after a time of suffering, but also a promise of community and joy and resilience amidst the challenges? Like, we cannot forget about the resilience that is built through multiple generations, opening their hearts to each other, and those of us who are willing to open our doors and welcome the stranger, the strength and the community in that process. So I wonder, in this world we're living in, who are we called to become as individuals? Who might we need to be? Might we be moving into someone else's space? Is that what's best for us and for community? Will that make us stronger and strengthen our community? What about our congregation? Who's really welcome here? And how do we let people know that they're welcome here? How are we that soft place to land for people in our larger community? Did you know that oftentimes throughout the week, many of our neighbors who are struggling with food insecurity or needing a bus pass often come through our doors because they know they can, and no questions asked, we will provide the support that we can from our minister's discretionary fund? We do this for congregants, we do this for neighbors. But does that say welcome? It's important. But what if we opened our doors and set the table for all of our friends regularly, inviting anyone and everyone who wanted to come in and dine and be together? Or if we went and visited some of our neighbors and we broke bread together and created strong relationships, so that, I always use this as a marker, when you hit that pothole at 4 a.m., you know that you can call someone or they can call you, and that you truly won't ever be alone. Whose stories don't we know now that maybe we want to hear? And how do we prepare our hearts and our spaces for our friends whose stories we are ready to learn and need to learn, and who maybe need to hear our stories? Sometimes when we think about social justice, we think about it in a couple of ways. We think about it in terms of charity, and we think about it as stuff that we do for others. But when we're indoors, all of the generations together, it's about being together. It's about acknowledging shared vulnerabilities. Not that our experiences are the same, but knowing that we truly need each other to survive. Connecting across those realities and then working together in our joy, in our resilience, in our vulnerability, in all of the messiness, to build that world that welcomes the sun. We've been doing some work as a staff team to help us in this transition, to help us build this new world, to become a part of this new world, to move with the changes of this time that have been brought to us by the climate crisis and the rise of pandemics. We're working really hard as a staff team to move from a multicultural place, as a worship team, to move from a multicultural space of understanding shared vulnerabilities, of truly being welcoming. And we're doing that in a few ways. One of those ways is by centering care. Centering care. What does that really mean? One of the ways we do that is by clarifying staff roles so that people know who to go to when they need something. When you're struggling, you're not thinking clearly. Your executive function is automatically compromised. So to try to sift through a website and figure out who might be in charge of what is not centering your care. So we're working on clarifying those roles. That's something that the board has asked us to do. But we're centering care in another important way, and that's by moving towards sustainable schedules for staff, and also helping our volunteers to volunteer sustainably. The idea that we have to be all in or all out, or that you get some sort of cookie at the end of your 60 or 80-hour week is not going to help us change the world. Embracing rest, embracing care, these are things that will help all of us to move into this new world in a different way. Because this pushing ourselves, it's literally killing us as a society. It's causing us to eat up resources we don't need. This idea that if you work more, you should purchase more. It's killing us, and it's killing our planet. So when we think about that Rob Eller Isaacs model I keep talking about, our within, among, and beyond work, one of the ways that we're working within and among is by moving to more sustainable scheduling for staff. For the first time in years, staff who are supposed to have study leave are taking their study leave. That helps staff to sharpen their skills, to be able to bring more quality theology to everyone across the age spectrum. It helps us to plan programs that can help us to transform ourselves and others so that we truly can be a place where you come and catch the glow, and then you can go out and share it with others with an understanding of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. What it means to really live our faith. We say our covenant every week. And if love is the spirit of this church and service is its law, how are we centering love? When we open our eyes in the morning, how are we centering love in our personal lives? How are we centering love in this congregation? And how is the congregation centering love in the work we do in the world? These are questions we have to really ask ourselves to live as Unitarian Universalists. And if service is our law, how are we engaging in service in a way that is reflective of love being at the center? Because if we're just doing charity without a deep connection to people, we're doing an act of charity, which is kind, but if we are not centering relationship, we're missing opportunities for love and connection, for understanding, for story sharing, and for transformation for ourselves and for others. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This next year, let's learn how to really embody this in this new world we find ourselves in. And maybe some of the things that we used to do will still be with us. And maybe there'll be some new things, but we're gonna have some help on this journey. Our multicultural ministry coach, Julica Herman de la Fuente, and we're also going to be receiving some information from an organization called FaithX, which is a church growth organization that I've worked with for years, and they're going to provide us with some key data that will help us understand what's happening in our community within 5 and 15 minutes of this congregation. What are the needs of people? What TV do people watch? What magazines do they read? What's their midweek availability? What are their struggles? How upside down are they on housing costs? What are their ridiculous childcare costs, which is like a mortgage payment every single month? And how can that data inform how we embody love and how we engage in partnership type service? So keep an eye on In the Know. You'll know when that meeting's going to be with FaithX, and you'll be invited to learn about the story that the data is telling us. And I will tell you that I hear gunshots every night when I go to sleep. And for many of us that live within 5 and 15 minutes of our congregation, that's our story. We go out our door in the morning and we're having conversations with our unhoused neighbors, and we are inviting friends over, and some of us may be also struggling with housing ourselves. Some of us are worried that our power bills are going to be shut off. This is our reality inside our congregation, and also particularly within our 5 and 15-minute drive. So how will we be living into love and service in the presence of these truths? And are we ready to truly acknowledge who we are in the room and who we truly welcome? And do we feel welcome in the space? And can we share our stories and talk about those things with love? As we connect with our Yule story this year, I invite you to think about these ideas, to rest in the quiet darkness that is offered by this time. And as those first rays of sun fall after the longest night of the year, to think about how we might start planting seeds and growing and nourishing a new world where not only are we fed, but everyone is fed. Everyone finds nourishment, and everyone finds a seat at the table. To guide us on this work and center care, I gift you these words by the Reverend Derek Jackson. Spirit of rest, divine nourishment, we are carrying so much. We've been carrying so much for way too long. Help us find moments of rest. Help us find those places of release. Help us to remember that we are human bodies, not automatons. We need nourishment and care. Bless us with space to breathe. Bless us with a space to follow our joy and to relax, reground, recenter, and reconnect with what we hold holy, so that we can continue to live into our callings, to continue to love fully and care for others. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you now to please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 1034. It's called De Noche. Liz will play it through once, then we'll sing it first in Spanish and then in English. Thank you. You may be seated. Each week we gather to align our giving with our values, and we support missions and ministries of our congregation and share half of our weekly offering with an organization whose values align with us. In the spirit of partnership, we are giving this week and sharing our plate with the East Coast Migrant Head Start program. which is located right here in our building. This bilingual preschool is serving the migrant community that is within our 5 and 15-minute drive. We've also talked to Patti, who's the executive director, and we'll be clarifying ways that we can volunteer and help out within the preschool in the coming year. So keep an eye out for that. But for today, I invite you to contribute. You can give cash or check in the collection plate, or you can give online by going to allsoulsindy.org, where you'll find a link that says Give to All Souls here on the left side. Thank you so much for your generosity and your support of All Souls, as well as your continued love for one another in this world. I invite you now to take a moment to make your gifts, and this morning's offering is now given and gratefully received.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see our way to you, and let us say Amen. Oh, hear our prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you.
Beautiful. Amanda, thank you so much for being here as we've navigated this time. Can we thank Amanda again? Coming from Chicago. It is a long drive from Chicago in this weather. It's extra appreciated. As we go forward through this week, with the many holidays that are happening, I invite you to keep your light on, to share it with others. And if you are gathering in the darkness, let it be a place of sowing seeds and a place of rest. Let it be a place of nourishment, and let it be a place where you are not alone. Reach out. Connect. You are a part of something larger. You are a part of a place where the spirit of love is at the center. But love only works when we share it and when we let it in. So let us do both of these things this holiday season. Let it be so. Amen, and blessed be.